to my brief writing prompt for today. I just don't want people to lose track of what was happening in that movie. It was not just a time filler, that movie. It is important to me that you get what was going on in that movie. So without further ado, I'd like to open the floor to clarifying questions. I'd like to start with Max Riley.
Concerning the second theory that was proposed, which I forget the name of.
So there is evolution and intelligent design.
Concerning intelligent design, who proposed this, since it never exactly mentioned that?
I have to apologize. I could not pin it down on one single person either. So I don't know who coined it.
I was wondering...
Where you'll get with the movie, spoiler alert, where you'll get with the movie is the idea, so the Establishment Clause. I think this is the Second Amendment of the Constitution, although I'm not a memorizer of the Constitution, says that church and state need to be separated. What the movie will present to you, and you can be critical of the movie, but what the movie will present to you is it is actually somebody who was a creationist who coined the term intelligent design in order to evade prosecution under the guidelines of the Establishment Clause. So what you'll find, spoiler alert, is that in that Pandas and People textbook, there are a few places where you see this.
Intelligent design.
What's the sign? I can't see it.
Pardon me for that.
It's like creationism with intelligent design.
What a print editor discovers is that somebody had gone through and changed creationism to intelligent design, and the hypothesis is based on the fact that you have a C at the end and an M at a C at the beginning and an M at the end. So, long answer made short. I don't know who to pin it on, but as the movie would present it to you, it would appear as though somebody who was advocating for creationism in the classroom, who just wanted to not get prosecuted for violating the Second Amendment of the Constitution. Erica Rosner.
What is the difference between creationism and intelligent design?
So intelligent design, you haven't even seen, the movie's really long, love that or hate that, it's a really long movie. Intelligent design is actually a neat idea, in my opinion. It's this idea that you have aspects of nature that are too complex to say evolution caused this. And the movie will bring up this as the centerpiece example. 11, let me go like this. Bacterium flagellum. Image this. Okay, so you guys all know bacteria are prokaryotes. They're considered primitive life forms. They're single-celled. Yet they have these highly complex motors. Okay, they're proteins, okay, but they're complex motors by all accounts. And they propel what's called the flagellum. So the bacteria, it looks like a sperm. You know how sperm have a tail? That's called the flagellum. They propel this flagellum so the bacteria can swim around. Intelligent design says, look, this is far too complex for evolution to create. And what they'll present to you is this idea of irreducible complexity. What is to reduce something? What do I do to something dealing when I reduce it?
Simplify it.
Great. So the intelligent design proponents say that things like this are too, you can't reduce them. If I take this part away, the whole device fails. And if you know a little bit about evolution, evolution tends to, not always, tends to get more complicated over time. And this would take a long time to evolve. Therefore, how would anything before this be of any value to the organism? Think about a mousetrap. traditional mousetrap. You've got that long metal piece that holds the mechanism in place. You know what I'm talking about? How good is a mousetrap going to do me without that piece? It's not going to catch a lot of mice. Okay? And so the argument is, this is like a mousetrap. It's great, but if you go back in time, it doesn't do the organism any good. It's irreducibly complex. It must have been an intelligent designer that created it. Back to you, Erica. That's a great point. It's a fantastic critique. I would hope that all of you as students would look at evolution and say, yeah, how on earth is random mutation going to create something like that? Fair critique. Problem is critique a theory? If I say Dylan's theory is bogus, is that a theory that I have?
No, statement.
Yeah, it's maybe a legitimate criticism of Dylan's weak theory. Sorry, it's probably a great theory. Okay? But we don't call that a theory. And so, the intelligent design proponents are saying, here is our theory, that this is too complex to have evolved. And the argument is, well, is that a theory or a decent criticism of the existing theory? Eric, I still didn't really answer your question. A creationist is typically defined as one who believes in the creation of life on earth as the Bible describes it, or whatever Bible equivalent they have in their religion. Dr. G and Kyle, I promise I'll get to you and Dylan. Dr. G.
Since they're arguing that the intelligent designer has nothing to do with religion, what other intelligent designer would there be?
That would be a question I would ask as well. So sorry for my lack of an answer, but that would be, and that's what the court case is all about. Thank you for asking that. The court case is really, okay, intelligent design proponents, are you really arguing for intelligent design, or are you arguing for religion in the classroom? And so unearthing this piece of evidence is pretty important in the development of the court case. By the way, folks, this is a non-fiction. This is describing actual events that happened very recently. Well, I think 7 years or 8 years ago is recently. You guys probably think it's ancient history. Kyle.
I remember at the beginning they were talking, they thought there was like one school board member that they thought brought the whole thing.
Bonsell, yeah.
Was he the one that instigated the whole thing, or was it like a false claim and it's actually someone else the whole time?
Spoiler alert, he's the one who instigated the whole thing. Of course, there's nothing to say that he wasn't hanging out on the golf course with his friends or eating lunch and they came up with the idea together, but he's the one who, he is the catalyst. Dylan.
I'm wondering why, like, classes don't just have it, like, as a choice thing where people who actually want to learn about like, creationism are allowed to go and do that somewhere else, and people who want to learn about the evolution are allowed to learn about that. Like,
So here's my opinion. I don't know if it's opinion. I'd go out and say that's not science.
yeah, I know.
And so if you went and you learned how life came to be based on what the Bible taught you, I think that's great. But you shouldn't get a science credit for that.
Okay.
That would be my argument. I think it would be fantastic if there was some kind of theology course where you could learn about the Bible and other religious teachings.
Do you think that they should just have, like, teaching creationism as a separate thing in church or something? Because...
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, I think Alex is right that if we're not equitable in terms of what teachings we teach religion-wise, then we're violating the Establishment Clause because we're sort of doing preferential treatment to Christianity over the religious doctrines that are out there. So unless the school could somehow give the opportunity for all, I think you're getting yourself into a bit of a sticky wicket. Jess Isle.
Well, my personally, I think that this whole intelligent design is very obviously religion. And so, but do they teach any other theories other than Darwinism? Like, are there any other theories?
They're not. That doesn't mean there can't be. That does not mean there can't be, or that I would be opposed to any. But there are not. That a side benefit of the movie that TJ also said that he learned from the movie, which is always kind of funny, is that this word theory, you'll see it, hear it misused, in my opinion, by tons of people, even highly educated people. In science, the definition of a theory is it has been tested repeatedly and supported by evidence. So we have no other theory. And so the movie, I don't know which room you were in or how far you got, but here are the other theories. Atomic theory is one. Okay, actually, let me just stick to atomic theory. Would anybody doubt that you and I and these tables are made of atoms? No. So theories are not truth, but they're the most widely accepted model we have for explaining our natural universe. Jessica.
Wait, so like you just
Jesse
said,
2 times.
it's,
Yeah.
but like you just said, it's been tested repeatedly, and how they were saying in the movie how you can't test creationism.
Right.
Well, how can you test, like how do you know that there's atoms if you can't even sit on the
Great point. Okay? I don't know if you remember this, and I won't be hurt if you don't remember this. But we do things that involve indirect evidence. Do you remember a black box experiment we did where we rolled around a little ball? Okay, well, Ernest Rutherford, a famous physicist from the early 20th century, he shot radiation at thin gold foil. He shot what are called alpha particles. And what he saw was that most of the alpha particles went right through. Some of them bounced off at angles, and some of them bounced straight back at the radiation shooter, if you will. We don't need to see an atom to be able to make an inference about the shape of an atom based on that. If most of them go through, what does that tell us about the atom? A lot of space in it. And if we use sophisticated mathematics, we can also make an inference about where the points are where there's stuff. Okay? And we can look at how these positively charged particles interact with that stuff, make inferences about the charge, the size by volume of those hard things. And I don't want to get into too much detail, not least because I don't know that detail. But hopefully you can see from that example that we can know about stuff, and we can test stuff without seeing it with our own eyes. Evolution, we see most of it, incidentally. Yep.
Have they've done like tests and stuff for creationism, right? It hasn't just been like, this is what we saw in this book, so we're gonna believe it?
I've had students say they're going to share with me some evidence, but me, I have not seen any test that provides affirmative, like any scientific test, investigation provides affirmative proof of an intelligent designer or religious entity. What's interesting though is I think, to me that doesn't take away from religion. In fact, there are a lot of very religious people who are scientists. The head of the Human Genome Project is a devout Catholic.
But he's keeping
He's keeping the peace. He's saying, I have faith, and my faith is what I reserve for my spiritual creator. Okay? That doesn't mean that there aren't natural laws that I can observe and study. So that's another important thing. This movie isn't about religious people versus science people. It's about a narrow group of religious people who think that elements of their religion belong in the science classroom. That's an important, I'm glad you asked that, because it's a very important distinction to think that you can't be religious and scientific at the same time. You absolutely can be deeply spiritual and scientific at the same time.
But you can't try to mix your not exactly science.
I'm not a theologian, I'm not a religious thinker, but my understanding is faith isn't something that you test. Faith is something that you have. It's a conviction. That's part of the beauty of faith.
Yeah.
And if you go about trying to test it, that kind of suggests maybe you don't have faith because you're testing it. You keep them separate.
And so the people